All right.
I think we had too many on. Nei au kamihi kia tāta katoa hui mai nei, I raro I te tuanui o tō tātou mai o te kaunihera, mo te kaupapa o te Manawhenua Forum. E te kāna kia te mata tō tātou hui, I raro I te maru o tō tātou matunui te rangi, ni noi tātou. He te atua ka hano tēnei tono mātua e te watu I nei o ngā Matamata-Piako, kia whakatau mai tō aroha ki rungu ki tēnā o tātou e hui mai nei. Tēnei mātua I noi kia koe kia manaaki tia kia tiaki tō tātou kuini a ngā waihono I te pō, mea hui ko tō tātou tumua ki o te kēnitanga I a ia e whai ake a ia. Piki te toimaha e noho ana ki runga I ngā hokohiwi o rātou e pane ana, e pauaru ana, mō rātou kua peturangi tia I roto I tō ati o ringa aroha, o te rā whera hoki o tātou tāngata rongondui I a whatarangi, e hoki ko tā hini mokomi, rātou ko take ingi nei o ngā whinua, mai nei e takahi ana I roto I tō wharia tāhua. Piki te oranga ki runga I a rātou e māwiwi tia. Tainua ki a tātou katoa e hui mai nei, manai tia mai mātou, whakatau mai tō aroha ki te ngā ko tino tina o tātou I roto I te aroha o tō tamatiko tahi a ihu karauti a mine.
Mihi ana tēnei kia koe tua mo tō I kai karakia. Nau mai hara mai, koutou katoa. Nice to see you all again. I think last time we were on, oh no, I was online, wasn't I? So it's good to be back. Yeah. Back in the room. Just briefly, we don't normally have an audience, so it's nice to have some of our members of the public here. No mai hara mai. And where are we? Got a couple of apologies noted today. Jill from Ngāti Rāhere Tumutumu, Arama from Ngāti Tamatera, and Mayor Ash is away today. So we've got
What's he?
Oh yeah, okay. Right. And because Mayor Ash is away, we've got Councillor James sitting up in the hot seat today. Welcome. Notification of any additional business. If we've got it. Additional business. Just a reminder again that we just need to be to stand aside from any decision making when a conflict arises throughout this table. So that's all good. And the confirmation of minutes from 14th of April.
I spent this morning going over the minutes and I'll be more than happy to move them.
Okay. We have a seconder.
Right.
Oh, thank you. And just a mover for the apologies. I'll move those.
And I'll second them.
Right. Thanks. Oh, the Tuatahi. Making good decisions, the Resource Management Act hearing Commissioner training. Sandra's going to come up and talk to this.
Good evening. So this is just a follow on from the report that we took to the forum in April. So I'll just run through a very quick update of what's happened since then. So at that meeting, we were requested by Andrea to just double check on the training and whether it's still going to be very relevant considering RM reform. We've put into your report there that the service provider has confirmed that that will remain the statutory accreditation and it will continue on. We also at the April meeting had a nomination from Mike Baker. He has since withdrawn that nomination, so that only leaves Arama as your one nomination to consider. The forum's heads of agreement doesn't expressly prohibit retrospective funding, so we are leaving it up to the forum to consider whether retrospective funding of Arama, who of course attended the course back in November, whether that is deemed appropriate. Happy to answer any questions.
Not a question, but we did discuss it, and we just weren't too sure whether or not we could apply those fees retrospectively, and considering that Piako has withdrawn his application, I'm actually quite happy to have the retrospective approval of payment for his done work. Okay, good one.
In this instance, I'm like Matua, I'm happy to support it. I do want to make a note that retrospective funding is not ideal, and so in the most practical, in the practical sense, it would be good to not have to do it retrospectively. But
So should we look at adding that to your heads of agreement? To not consider retrospective funding moving forward? Or we could incorporate
I would
it.
actually prefer to have that as being a formal recommendation, because with Michael pointing out, I did have the actual thoughts of putting forward myself for that, but I'd rather wait until I have another year at least of sitting around this table before I. Oh no, sorry. I'll start again. I won't, because I had too much already on my plate.
it's probably one. Yeah, it would be good to add that in so we don't have that complication again.
I've got a quick drafted recommendation here if you'd like. So the forum recommend the heads of agreement be updated to prevent retrospective funding moving forward.
Yes. I'm happy to do that. Oh, see.
Sorry, Mike, it's not as fast as you're talking. Was it the forum recommends the heads of agreement be amended to remove the retrospective funding?
Be updated to prevent retrospective funding moving forward.
Yes.
So we're accepting this one now, providing that you move and second that, but we will accommodate it next time round. It has to be approved by the forum prior to them going.
Yep, cool. So can someone move that the forum approves retrospective funding for Matamata-Piako who completed the Making Good Decisions Resource Management Act hearing commission training on the 11th of November? I can move that.
Yes, I'm happy to second that. To Clark.
Thank you, Sandra.
We're just checking you've moved both recommendations.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, and move the change into the agreement.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Niall. Matamata, is it you? Oh, that might be Niall. Come on.
I do have your presentation.
Wonderful. E te timatanga e mihi ana ki a koe e tarangatira te tiamana e noni. Uri no ki a koe e tarangatira e whakatuwhera nei tō tātou hui tēnā koe mea ku rangatira a hui mai nei tēnā koe. Firstly, can I acknowledge the report that the team have prepared on simplifying local government, the process that the government has announced for us. I've done a very brief presentation with a couple of slides on it. I'll take the report that's been presented as being read, but I'd invite our team, Kelly, Niall and Sandra in particular are spending quite a bit of time on this project in terms of working with other councils in our area. I'll touch on that in a minute. I invite them if they have any contributions they wish to make, please do. It's called Simplifying Local Government Reform, Local Government, and it's Reforming Local Government. This is the proposal the government announced in May. If we go to the next slide. In simple terms, there are two pathways that have been proposed to local government. The first pathway is something called a Head Start process, and the second one is called a backstop process. What the government has said is they received submissions on a proposal to change or to simplify local government before Christmas. You may recall they announced that they would be removing regional council laws and creating some form of entity in the meantime to look at the structure of local government going forward over a number of years. They took submissions on that process, and from the submission, the government has concluded that there is an appetite amongst a number of local authorities to actually move faster on the reform or restructure of their areas. So, for example, the Southland region has been talking about local government restructure for some time, and actually have put a proposal forward to the Local Government Commission to actually change it under an existing legislation. But there are other councils, regions as well, that have been having these conversations, and we're saying to the government, we actually want to move. We don't want to be waiting for this change to happen. We're ready to make change. So what the government have come out with is its proposal where they've said, as I mentioned before, two work streams, if you like. A Head Start process where if councils are prepared to submit proposals to the government based on certain criteria, as outlined in the report, by the 9th of August, you can do that. And the government, and I'll talk about the timeframe in a minute, the government will take those into consideration in terms of whether, firstly, it meets the criteria the government are trying to promote and stacks up. If the government accepts that, then the government will look at legislating that so that those structures would come into force in 2028 elections. And they call it the Head Start process. Then they've also said that if you don't want, and the time frame, I just want to mention again, the deadline for that is 9th of August this year. So it's a really limited time frame for anybody who hadn't started this work. It's a really compressed time frame. But if you decide as a council that you don't want to be part of that process, then you can go into what they call a backstop process. And the backstop process is, if I can say it in very simple terms, the government sorts out all the Head Start ones that they're prepared to, and everybody else falls into another bunch, and the government will decide what happens with those. So many councils, including I believe most of the councils of the Waikato region, have said, we want to try and have an influence in the future structure of local government in our area and what we think is best for our area. And so most councils are aiming to put something into the Head Start process. As I mentioned before and outlined in the report, there are criteria the government are looking for. But in simple terms, they want fewer councils. They want unitary councils. So a unitary council, they want to get rid of regional councils, and unitary councils are councils that take on the functions not only of a body like ours, but also the regional council. And there are examples of unitary councils in the country at the moment. Gisborne is one, where that council does both roles. Tasman is another one. Nelson's another one. So it's not new, but that is the model that
The district council
and regional council. That is the model that the government wants to exist going forward for local government. And one of the key drivers, and I'm not here to promote what the government wants, it's just what's being released. One of the key drivers behind the government's decisions is, you will know that there are lots of resource management reforms that have been proposed that are going to, and there'll be submissions on, and they'll roll out later this year. And there are other changes that the government have announced in terms of things that local government does. And the government wants a local authority structure across the country that they will have more confidence, I put them more, confidence in implementing those changes. So that's one of the drivers, or probably they say it's the key driver for this. I mean, there's also the concerns about the affordability of rates and what the future investment that needs to occur in infrastructure in local government and nationally. So those are concerns that they have. I'm not promoting any aspect of it. I'm just trying to give you an overview of what's involved. I think I know because I was in a forum in Wellington with our mayor and many mayors of what they call the rural provincial sector, which is councils that not the cities and not the regions, but councils like ours. In Wellington, we had a session and the minister came in and spoke to us. And I know that there is a lot of frustration amongst the mayors, chief executives, etc., about the pace of this process and the ability to do it justice. You know, to actually, given the extent of the change that we're talking about potentially, the fact that we have absolutely limited opportunity. We are very fortunate we have this meeting today, because otherwise we have almost zero opportunity to sit in front of you and show you what's happening. So engagement, iwi Māori, very, very limited opportunity to engage with our community. And there's a lot of frustration amongst councillors and staff about the pace. However, we don't make the rules, so we're doing our best. And I'll get on to what we are looking at doing in just a moment. This was, I think it was it last week we got the guidelines from the government, or was it the week? So last week, was it last week or the week before? Week before, the Friday before, we got guidelines issued to us. So this is a few weeks after the announcement. Here are some guidelines. And if I sound like I'm criticising the process, I have to be critical that this information wasn't available from day one. So I am actually criticising that process. But we got guidelines which started to colour more about what the government would be seeking in terms of a Head Start application. And I just thought, if we go to the next slide, I just thought I'd put on this slide, for example, these are things that are in the guidelines that are specific about iwi Māori and treaty. And for example, we're required to, if we're developing and submitting a Head Start proposal, we need to demonstrate how the local voice is maintained, how iwi Māori, as it is under local government, will be participate in decision making, how in any change that occurs, how existing agreements that councils have with iwi, hapu, etc., how they will carry forward or how they will be taken into consideration in any new structure, and obviously how we, all of that, how that might work in a new unitary entity. Treaty settlements, there's acknowledgement in the guidelines about treaty settlements and the post-settlement governments, entities that exist. For example, well, the proposals for the Matamata-Piako, which we've known about in terms of governance, we would have to give consideration to what any new structure, how that would fit into that. They make the point that it's the Crown that's responsible for upholding the settlements, but it is about thinking about those existing and pending agreements and arrangements that we have with iwi Māori and how do I say this? What we do in any proposed structure to ensure that they are
Still
honoured, preserved, etc. The guidelines say that I think this is an acknowledgement. It is an acknowledgement. This is an acknowledgement that the timeframe is very compressed and the ability to engage effectively is limited. What the guidelines say is, look, if a Head Start proposal is given an approval, and I think that's in September, then there would be what they call a detailed design phase. And that's where the government signalled that the detailed engagement with the iwi Māori community, etc., will occur, including consideration of treaty. And that time frame is between October and March, which is still not a lot of time. What's happening in our district? So this is our region, and I don't know if you can see that properly, but we've got our Waikato region at the moment comprises Thames Coromandel district at the top there in the grey, Hauraki district, Matamata-Piako, South Waikato, part of Rotorua, a big chunk of Taupō, South Waikato, Waitomo on my left, my right actually, on here, and Otarahanga, Waipa, and Waikato, then Hamilton City. So that's our region. And in our region, some of our councils fall into other regions. So Rotorua and Taupō councils, they like, I think Taupō their boundary touches on at least 3, it might be 4 other regions. So Waikato, Horizons, Bay of Plenty, and I think Hawke's Bay region. The Taupo touch on those boundaries, and parts of their districts fall into those areas. Rotorua, of course, is Waikato region and the Bay of Plenty region. So if you take, this is not meant to be disrespectful in any way. If you look at Southland councils, all those Southland councils fall in one region. So I guess the point that one thing that this diagram hopefully illustrates, and it's from Waikato Regional Council, so I acknowledge the provision of this chart from them, that we've got a bit of a complex situation in our region. There are some of our colleague local authorities who have expressed a preference for our region for one local authority over the whole region. So effectively, the current boundary of the Waikato Regional Council would form the boundary of the new council or unitary council. There are some of our colleague councils in the Waikato region who prefer something different, and this has been announced publicly, so I'm not giving anything away. Otarahanga and Waitomo district councils say we are Te Rohe Pōtai, so we don't see ourselves as part of, sorry, Rohe Pōtai is the king country. We don't see ourselves as part of necessarily Waikato, so we think that's what our council should be, and we're wanting a unitary on that. Some of our colleague councils, and I know Thames Coromandel have announced they are looking at 4 or 5 options, as I can't remember, was it 4 or 5? A number of options anyway, including the one Waikato, including other versions of that, including consideration of the Western Bay. So there's lots of discussions, and I'll come to where our council's talking about. But this map in particular, why I wanted to put it up, is that the government have said that there are a number of factors that we need to consider when making a submission on a proposal to the Head Start for a unitary. And one of those is catchments, is the catchment areas. And community interest as well, scale of course, but this diagram hopefully shows that in terms of river catchments, there's 2 distinct catchments. There's what we call the Waikato Waipa in that greeny blue, and then the Matamata-Piako in the mustardy brown colour. So at an officer level, I say this at an officer level, if we look at the criteria the government have put out, it is our view that of course one Waikato would tick the boxes, but we all, when I say tick the boxes, meet the criteria, but we also have a view, I think most of us have a view anyway, that Matamata-Piako unitary and let me call it an eastern side of the Waikato and a western side, if you like, that would meet the criteria as well, based on what the government have issued. Now, part of our complexity in our region is, as you know, some parts of our district don't just, their catchment is to the sea, not to rivers. So Hauraki, Thames Coromandel and Hauraki are examples, as Waitomo, Waikato, Waipa, Otarahanga. Oh no, not Waipa, sorry, but Otarahanga, Waikato. So that's a little bit of extra complexity, but in simple terms, if we look at what the government have issued, is that we see that a Matamata-Piako catchment unitary would meet the criteria they've put, and so would a Waikato Waipa. What our council is doing is it said, is it better that you summarise what our council, are you okay that I say? What our council has said that it wants to a structure that it feels will best serve its communities And on that basis, it doesn't support or acknowledges that a one Waikato is obviously feasible against the criteria. It doesn't support a one Waikato unitary authority. I think one of the main concerns around that is that the loss of the local voice of our communities, that it would be diluted in a one Waikato scenario. So, did you want to make any other comment? No. So, what our council acknowledges that's on the board, and that some of our colleague councils are promoting that as a preference. Your council has said and have agreed that we will work. When I say agreed, we haven't formally decided, but we are working with Hauraki District Council and South Waikato District Council to consider an entity in the Head Start, which is effectively a Matamata-Piako catchment, which is that I call it a brown. But also acknowledging that that Thames Coromandel potentially plays a role in that. So that's what I wanted to illustrate with that chart. There, as I say, there are some councils who are not necessarily like Waitomo, Tauranga, have not followed exactly what the government criteria said, and our council might even put a proposal that doesn't necessarily match exactly what the government wants. But we're looking at that option of the Matamata-Piako. I just want to check if there are any questions about that with the tiamana before I go further.
You've still got more?
Only one more time frame, but just while this is up.
I was going to try and leave any discussions until the end.
Yeah.
Okay. So my next slide. Oh, I hope you can read this. But this is a overall timetable. So by August, if we start at the top, 2026, the Head Start is open. Outline proposals are due on the 9th of August. In September, council will agree in principle on the proposals that it feels fits its criteria. Then councils will start working on detailed proposals, and I mentioned engagement with iwi Māori and our community in more detail. Can I just make a comment? We have tried to at least start some engagement, and many councils have, by publishing information on our website, and we're looking to canvass and seek information from our community. It is very rushed, but anyway, further detail and to be worked through until March of 27, when the final proposals will be submitted. There'll be the government will be in place by then, and I expect, and then the cabinet will confirm the proposals in May, and then look at putting legislation in from there to 28. Legislation enacted early 28, and then the new structures and the new entities will be elected in the October local authority elections. Now, if you're that's the Head Start. If you're a backstop council, then your reform would start, well, indicated it would start from post the elections 2028.
Cool. Outside?
Happy Partai, engari looking at the start from the beginning. We have Head Start, we have backstop, which is basically Plan A and Plan B. So if we don't implement Plan A, then we're going into Plan B. So yeah, I agree that we should be in Plan A so that we can at least determine our own journey. Having a look at how things are set up at the moment, And for partnerships, I tend to have a view strictly from a Manawhenua, Tamata-Whenua Māori perspective of the different iwis, etc. I agree with the Matamata Hauraki connection in that we do need to talk a lot more with our Hauraki whānau about a number of things that happen throughout our entire rohe along from the whaimais through to tikapa. I can also see how Hauraki would also be looking possibly other places for their connections. I actually think that us with Hauraki would be very good. I also agree with us with Waipa, with Raukawa. Waipa is traditionally Raukawa Maniapoto, but we have done quite a number of things together through our connections as well with Mangakote, Ngāti Koroki. So there are already established relationships there between Manawhenua of each of those four here. South Waikato, that's very strongly Raukawa, and we do have a lot of connections with Raukawa. And Raukawa are quite strong in a lot of their determinations on what happens, but their participation with council seems to be not as well established, to put it politely, that I've actually seen anyway. They do a lot of things for their people, but yeah, I'm not too sure about their influence with their own local councils. Their councils, I'm actually quite pleased that they're going to be coming up with new elections, because there are a number of councillors who have been very disruptive down there, and I think that a new election would really help the council itself, and hopefully airing things out and allow the people to decide how they have to. Tēnā, I don't think that we, even though we do have relationships with Rotorua, I don't think that we need to sort of like try to extend ourselves down to those points, as well as with Taupu Manawhenua Tia. Yeah, I am actually against consolidating into a super structure with Waikato, because I agree with the sentiment that I feel that we would end up losing our voice, or at least have very strongly diminished on what is needed for our own particular project and EVs. So, Aria e kōrero tuatu ki tēnā, tēnei e kamihi. Good from Te Awa.
Anyone else?
I think a lot of these decisions is I'm gathering information for governance, as you can understand. So if you could reach out to our governance on another level, it'd be good. Reach out to our chairman or to our CEO to find the answers that will be pretty factual for our tribe, for our even. So yeah, are those slides that you put up, are they available?
Yeah.
If we can have them, be really good. Yeah, I think it's more of a governance decision with you guys. Yeah, for me to make a comment. Yeah.
For what I think you are right. We need to readjust to the council and re-elect what has to be done in the way of moving forward.
Sorry, just in the kingdom, I guess, is do we actually have a process where we can have a say in this as Manawhenua?
Well, I would actually invite you to, we are here to hear and see how we can input and how you can input into the process. So it's that any suggestions you have for us. Yeah, this isn't how we want to do it because it's so compressed. But if there are some suggestions, like we can reach out. We can reach out to your chair and your CEO for sure.
Morena, sorry for my lateness. From Ngāti Hanarangi, I think the same, Manaya. I think if something is sent out to each of our boards, then we can actually have the chance to look through the information. Just like Matua, I would hate to see the loss of our voice at this table or this rohe. And I think what may happen too is the loss of our mana in this area. So I think we just need to be very, if we are able to be part of that process, then.
Of course, there's the diminished local voice. In your opinion, how much does that impact iwi voice? Like, are we talking about simplifying means taking away any other committees outside of council?
Well, the whole governance structure will be up for consideration. I do know that at Waikato Mayoral Forum, there's been discussions with, for example, Waikato Tainui, and I understand that there is some initiatives there to gather iwi views. I've always thought, well, we have our forum, so we can come here and we can feed it into the process. The comment about what's diluted, or how is it diluted? It's a really tough one, because I have heard a view expressed by one iwi representative to say, well, bigger councils means we have less councils to deal with, and we can have our voice given in one forum rather than multiple. So I'm not in any position to make any judgment of that going forward.
What happens to multi-boards?
Yes, that question has been raised by one of our neighbouring councils. I think what we have to do, the short answer is we would have to think about, we'd have to work out how we deal with representation, adequate representation.
Can I ask them what would happen to the Manawhenua forum?
Yeah, that's my question, whether it will even exist. Even a super city one, yeah.
So that's one of the challenges that is included in the guideline. How do you ensure that iwi Māori hapu have input into any future structure? So from our view, if I look at Matamata-Piako's submission, we would obviously be interested in what the Manawhenua Forum representatives say about that. It's something that we have to give, we have to take account of, but there's no formula. There's no formula.
Speaking of formulas, probably something to consider when you are doing the plan over your Christmas break, because that's going to be times. Is how do we ensure, even if all goes well and there is a Manawhenua group and it is representative of everyone from Hauraki, etc., Hauraki, South Waikato, etc., to ensure that there is a formula that can ensure equitable representation among iwi. Got 12 iwi sitting in the Hauraki area, a couple here, one over in South Waikato. So if we take the Waiho River catchment makeup, for instance, even though it touches all of our area, Hauraki actually have more seats than Haua and Hirangi and Oko share one seat. So if that can be taken into consideration, if this is all to just ensure that there is equity of representation across Manawhenua. There you go.
I take your advice on that.
That's probably one of the biggest bugbears for smaller areas that you know, the person that said, oh, great, bigger councils will get to work with, they're probably big guns. So they've probably got more resources to kind of manage bigger conversations with bigger councils. So, and that's all I worry about for is the Manawhenua sitting at this table is very easy to drown us out. We're sitting alongside the likes of Waikato Tainui or even Doko and Manawhenua, much bigger, you know, resources are much bigger. Yeah.
Although, as Auntie Eva Rickard said, it's not so much how many dogs are in the ring, it's who's got the loudest bark.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a good growth.
Could I just, if I could just, I should have done this earlier. Did the team, is there anything, I'm sure there's something I've missed. Is there anything that the team wanted to just add in here at this stage?
Covered it all, other than it's just really that tight time frame that is the challenge.
Does this all get rolled back again if there's a change in government?
Maybe. We did hear from the Labour representative of local governments. So he said this in the meeting, so I'm not giving anything away, I don't think, where that representative said, look, we would look at reform, but we would do it a different way. And I was just commenting to our deputy mayor that we haven't heard much from the other parties, government parties, about their stance on it. Other than it went through cabinet, so presumably they support it.
We'll be looking to launch consultation on our website on the options that you mentioned. The only other point to make is that it's not currently a legislative process.
Yes.
Yeah, that's about it.
It's got a legislation around it.
You guys don't have to do consultation, you just.
Oh, no, well, actually, what I think the point I was making is there's existing legislation we have to comply with. So this is a significant decision.
Gotcha.
So we have to make sure we do comply, and we do have to consider the views of our community. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
This isn't how we would normally do it. So, but the other point he's making is that the government, I think you're making, which is a really good one, is the government come out with all this new process. There's no law to support it. There's actually law in place to do local government reform in a different way. So in other words, when I say maybe things might change after the election, but if there's no law in place, of course, things can change.
Gotcha. Yep.
Just one more thing from me. This government has fast tracked so many of their decisions anyway, turning them into law, with very little, if any, consultation on so many items. I think they have this great plan that the Labour Party will be working for so long trying to create so many changes that have really been established that they won't actually have time to do much for the community. However, having said that, I still think that we should work towards making a firm decision on what and how we would like to move forward on this, particularly on who we engage with. It's all going to be down to the engagement with the other councils. So I think that we should also possibly be having a quiet chat, perhaps, with some of our iwi whanaunga about what their thoughts are and how they've been discussing things. I think that would be advantageous for us. Te whakaaro noa,
How does it affect rates?
Oh.
I'm assuming this is it's all a money saving scheme, isn't it? So surely they are, right? Okay.
They must go down to nothing.
I'm going to try very hard not to make any political statements. The theory is from amalgamation of councils into bigger entities that it will be more affordable. That's the theory. There are various reports.
More problems.
Well, there's various reports out that debate whether that actually happens, but that's part of it. Affordability is part of it. What I was going to say was, sorry, just in terms of further input, we are to put this report up to council at the end of July.
Yeah.
So whether there was an opportunity to have some form of further discussion with the forum before that report goes up.
Yeah, I was just thinking maybe we pull together a subcommittee, or would everyone like to be available for
I'll be available.
a whole Manawhenua or a smaller subcommittee?
Well, I up to the meetings, but regardless, will be available.
And I'm cool with that. It just means we probably can do it online.
Yeah.
To save us trying to pull everyone into a place, but I think it's probably important enough for us to make ourselves available for that. I just wonder whether is there scope for a workshop on it, just for that.
Sure. But today,
No, not today.
Oh.
Today.
just speaking.
I don't know. I haven't think about that. Whether it's a workshop, and hey, and maybe it's a workshop with our neighbouring ones.
That would actually be awesome.
I mean, Doug was already at the table, so there are already the South Waikato
Yeah.
friends. Or our Hauraki whānau. Actually, we're kind of all.
So, is it-
We're still here.
It'll be the Tunes Coromandel one Saturday.
yeah, look, can I just say this is and this is just a practical thing. Our colleagues are doing their bit with their iwi as well, representatives.
Yeah.
And it'd be great to get everybody in the room. We found, for example, with Manawhenua Rohe, that's been challenging.
Yeah.
So
Does it make it more challenging?
no, we're bringing. What I'm saying is I don't want to trip on the mana of our other colleague local authorities because they have their relationships with their iwi.
Yeah.
So all I was saying was I think we definitely want our Manawhenua to meet.
Yeah.
And do we definitely want to talk to you again?
Yeah.
I just not sure the logistics of.
Yeah. Does it need to be in that first, not by the 9th of August, but in that?
No, it'd be July. I was thinking that we talk to you.
Okay. Yep.
When we've got our report.
Yeah.
Further advanced and we hopefully have got more clarity about some of the ifs and whats and we would come together with something that's starting to show what it might look like.
And then I think we need to meet with our others, just our Manawhenua forum, so that we can get a feel for what we want, actually, because we might say no, or we might say no. We don't want to say no with them sitting in the room. Just need a chance for us to be.
I think as a collective, we should all have a say, and fast track, side track. Raipara has been going into Parliament, coming back. We have had meeting with 16 maraes, strategy, government, and what's happening. My main problem is right on maraes. So where did that go?
There is something on the agenda of it too.
Okay.
Is it on this one?
It might be. Oh, that's an evidential thing.
Oh, there was.
Yes.
Yes, that's kind of the LPP update.
Thank you. I thought there's actually something about that.
Okay. Is that enough for you?
For me, absolutely.
Yeah. So I've taken out all of the feedback, so it's just that the information we received and to the forum provide feedback on the simplifying local government head start process from Matamata-Piako District Council.
So that gives you enough feedback from us to go do your next step with our thoughts in mind. Yes, all good. Okay, I'll move that the report be received and that our feedback be received also. A seconder. A second. Thank you. Thank you for that. Everything was good. All right. Let's go up this one. Toru. White order.
Tēnā koutou. I am presenting for Waitua Water today as a communications manager who was the project lead is away today. So following the forums hui back in April, council talking about this kaupapa, council has since consulted with the wider district on its change proposals to connect the Waitua community to the council water supply as its preferred option. This comes after extensive consultation with the Waitua community to find a viable long-term water solution, and that included work with the Waitua community panel that was established back in 2020. So even though the council is consulting on the change, ultimately the delivery of this project will sit with Waikato Waters following the transition from 1 October 2026. At this stage, started collating submissions with preparation for council deliberation and decision, but we welcome any feedback from the forum to give to council to consider for its final decision. But yeah, happy to take any part on this. Any questions? Come on. Sorry. Well, so I'll move that report be received. No feedback. Seconder? Thank you. Our next one, the annual survey. Sorry. Can we take this one? I wasn't sure if you wanted to take this read, but happy to take this read as well. So just for a bit of context, is our annual survey that we provide to the forum, and we request that you fill out the first partai in that survey. The results for that feed into our annual report. This partai was developed in 2012 as part of that long-term plan process, and it has been carried forward by the forum since. An indicator for the ongoing maintenance of the relationship between Manawhenua and council. And so, yes, we would love it if you could fill it out. There is a link available in your report. Please let me know if there are any issues with that. Otherwise, there is a physical copy in front of you.
I know we historically bad at filling out these surveys, even though we're like, we know what I'll say, we know what I'll say. So we could either be good and go home and do it and send it in, whether it's the link or with the hard copy one, or we could take 5 minutes to do it now. What do we think?
You could not give us any more tea until we've done it.
With cold food, it's dangerous. I mean, could we do this in 10 minutes, or do you want to do it when you've got a moment? Is the pens? Let's do it. Let's just do it. Everyone's got their one, eh?
It's confusing.
Oh, never mind, it's got one.
Oh.
Oh, yes, so just going to adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes while we do this, just so we don't have to. Thank you for doing that. That actually saves, that's one thing off my list too, that's great. So I'd just like to move that we've received, the survey is received. That you've received and completed. Can I take a second, please?
Second,
Okay, thanks, Olivia.
it's completed.
And. Oh, sorry. All right, on to our next one, as update about the LTP. So within this one, which is the rating structure. The rate structure.
Morena Koto. Yeah, and I've got Tony here with me today, who's a rating guy.
The rating guy.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I've been
So I'm
all
known
in the last couple of weeks too.
You know.
So the purpose of this report is just to provide you with an update on the development of the long-term plan, which is currently underway. So this is Council's 10-year plan for the period from mid-2027 to mid-2037. So staff are seeking feedback on any of the elements of the plan, which there were updates on in the report. Plus, if you have any feedback on issues related to rating of Māori freehold land, which could be considered as part of a review of the rate remission policy. And also, if you've got any feedback at this stage on content that we could include in the Māori engagement and decision-making section of the long-term plan, which was in the body of the report as well.
Oh, you want to get feedback now? Oh, okay. Yeah. You want some?
Yeah, it's going to come out.
Can you talk us through the Māori freehold land information?
Yes, sure. Maybe I should bring it up on the screen. We could have a look at it.
Yeah.
Got that up on the screen here. Do you want to talk the Tony or shall I talk about it?
Oh, you can. I mean, pretty much Maori freehold land is rated until it isn't. For the most part, it's rated as normal unless it's not used, like Mariah or any other reasons you see fit. You can, if there's anything else you feel like it shouldn't be rated for, you can just put a letter or into writing into council, and there's a policy for that. And it's the full remission of rates on Maori freehold land, but that doesn't include targeted rates.
Doesn't include, sorry?
It does include targeted rates, so it doesn't include water or wastewater or anything else.
How unused is unused?
It's exactly that. So there's no one farming on there. There's no one doing anything on there. Generally, what happens is if Maori land is being farmed, but we can pass that the invoice on to the person that's actually farming that.
Yep. Marae doesn't fall into that though, eh?
That's right. So they're not rated, but they are rated for services. So if they get water or wastewater, they're rated for those, but not for a general rate with UOGC.
Was that your question, Michelle?
Yeah.
Have you heard something otherwise though, Matamata?
No. I sort of popped up with the Aki marae. Well, we're still going to have a meeting about it, see, and a lot of, I took it back to our marae, and I know a lot of other maraes, we don't know about practice on maraes,
Right.
Yeah, to simplify things, it might be better.
This pretty much is that if there is a marae and you have a water or wastewater component, you will still get a rates invoice. But if you don't have any of those things, you won't be rated on the line.
it's strictly just the water rates and perhaps the, if you have, sewage, from council is debt rated, but no actual land.
Exactly right, yeah.
I did want to actually ask exactly how the, how the, sewage rate works, because, we seem to have quite high sewage rates from our marae, and, when I asked about it, it appeared that it was based on how many audits we had. Does that include, well, actually, there's a couple of questions. One is that, does that include how many urinals they are? And does that include anything that is not actually being used, as in permanently not being used?
So what should be the case there is the amount of pans, so urinals and toilets all in the same thing. And we call those pans, but what you should also see is a remission. So generally what happens, we have a pan remission on your invoice. So we put them on if you have, I don't know, 10 toilets, for example, but you actually only use the water for 2. You should see what you see on your rates invoice. You've been charged for 10. We've actually removed 8 of those as part of remission policy, and that's standard across all rating units.
Yep. Okay, no, thank you for that. I'll make sure that is rectified. We do have some buildings that we actually remove them, and that also means that those toilets have been removed. We've also retired a couple of pans, or 3 pans.
That's good. You just need to let us know, and we can amend the rates.
Thank you.
Yeah, just one from me. It is frustrating being part of multiple owned land. And we multiple owned land in different districts, and it's a bit of frustration for us as owners, you know, sometimes moving forward. Just one thing I want to make sure, if you make sure you're aware of it, as you said, you actually charge the person that's farming the land, right? Some of these Māori freehold land, for some reason, and sometimes it's because they've been left as wāhi tapu, so you'll find a Māori freehold block within a farm, right? Within a European farm, a European farmer's farm. You might ask him, hey, you pay the rates, you know, you pay the rates on that block, but I just want to make it aware that you make sure he's clear that he's not paying the rates. So eventually, because in the past people have paid rates on Māori freehold land and they've acquired the block, so that causes a whole heap of kerfuffle. Māori Land Court get involved. The guy may have been doing it unintentionally. Some people have done it intentionally, but it's just to more or less ask that question to say, have you the authority to graze that piece of Māori freehold land? Just to be clear, you know, just so it's clear on your records.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want is because guys come back to it, is we've had blocks that we've left because they've been a burial, or they've been a wāhi tapu site, a site we may have buried them, and we've left them, and they're in the middle of the farm. Frustrating for some people, but hey, how hard they say they're landlocked, but they're not landlocked because they're next to the Waiho River. That was the Blue Highway. That was our road. Right. So all these waterways were our roadways. They say, oh, you didn't have roads. We had roads, right? There was that Blue Highway and there was trails. So yeah, just for your information, if you can just bear it in mind that you asked the question, do they have authority to pay the rates on that place? Yeah. And if not, can you find someone, the trustees or whatever, on that piece of freehold land to ask them? Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just ask, so it's the significance for us under our treaty settlement? Where does that sit within rateable land? Because we have blocks that are just sitting there. We don't collect anything, any revenue from the middle. Quite often you can't even use them, but we charge rate.
So we're assuming that they're actually being used until they're not. So if we don't know they're not being used, you need to advise us and look at that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, so that's just the number. We just need to let you know.
Absolutely.
Good. Yeah.
I know, because then we kind of look at the treaty settlement approaches like, why the f- do we want them? It's going to cost us money.
Yeah. Although giving you land that's it's actually prone to disasters.
Yes.
Like, that are falling, the slips are falling down the back of people's houses. Oh, we'll give them that.
Yeah.
Then it becomes a liability for us.
Yeah.
That's the frustration we're having. Okay, it's okay to give us back a piece on each maunga we have, but then when you give us a piece at the back of all these coastal homes that shouldn't have been there really, and they're all starting to fall away, it becomes a real liability for us, Yeah. So, and a lot of the places the word is uneconomical.
It's good to know.
I'd urge you to let me know as soon as you can
Okay.
before the rates are struck, because it makes life much easier for the next time round.
Thank you. Any more on that one? We'll move on to the decision making, and I don't know if anyone's had a proper look through the mechanisms that we have, but I'm happy with those. I don't have any feedback. That's actually grown since I started my time here. Like we didn't have that every day on staff. Māori boards weren't there, so that's grown. In my time, and I'm pretty happy with that. But has anyone got any other feedback around decision-making mechanisms? There's the Māori board, every day's on staff. There's the project and advisory groups, which we have many of. So the climate strategy is an example of that. Papakainga, all those things have worked really well. Taking some work to get us there, so don't make those effective, but I think it's looking good. Yeah.
Just to note this, the plan doesn't come into effect till mid next year.
Yeah.
We've probably still got quite a lot of water under the bridge still in terms of like the Head Start proposal that we've been talking about. So this section will just need to be updated to reflect things as they change over the next year.
As long as the section is still there, that would be great.
Yeah, and we'll bring it back to you as it develops.
That's the plan.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Everyone's just going to take all of this and put it. No.
I mean, it could be that where we join up with will go, yeah, we want that.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's right.
I mean, it would be good to see Manawhenua throughout the rohe how many councils actually have active participation by iwi sitting around the table like this. I would have thought there wouldn't be too many.
I don't.
Maybe they are.
Are we exemplars?
No, I think we are very fortunate, but I can't comment on my colleague because they have their relationships, and so but we're very fortunate to have.
It does work a bit differently, and like with South Waikato, but they've only got protocol.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so is there something else you needed any feedback on?
No, just if there's any general feedback on anything else in the report, other sections of the report, but otherwise, no.
That's cool. Okay, so I move the report be received. Any feedback be noted? Any feedback on those issues be noted? Well, in general. Cool. Seconder? Thank you. Oh, thanks, Andy. Thanks, Tony. Thank you for wiping those water rates the other week too.
Benefit from this.
He's here if questions were raised, but if you want to just.
Right, I also make all policies, plans, bylaws update. We can take this as read unless anyone has any burning questions for Niall. We would love to answer. No? Kapai, I move that it's received. Thank you.
I'll second that.
8.5. District plan and resource management plans update.
Oh,
Who's that today? That is the
They were
planning team. Fishery.
I can see Caroline's online.
What are? I'm going to give our RMA update. Would you like us to go through the report?
Yeah, go back.
So we got the first few items on the exemption applications, the plan stock exemption application. So the first item there is plan change 65 minor matters, and that's to make some corrections to our district plan. I'll have approved that that piece of work, and that's due for notification on the 23rd of June, and submissions will close on the 20th of July. Our second exemption application is plan change 49. That's for Waharoa. A lot of work's been put into that application, and also, and staff have been working with Ngāti Hawa on that project. Ngāti Hawa have been able to provide a letter of support for the application, and that's become part of the material sent to the government. We lodged that application with the Minister on the 19th of May. We haven't heard anything back yet, but it did take 3 months for the other application to process. So we might start bugging them in a few weeks. And we've got private plan change 62 and private plan change 64. So we're just following up with the Calcutta applicants today, just to discuss where things are at for them. This is an industrial development that's a modified one previously submitted as plan change 57. Next plan change, Banks Road residential rezoning. So this is a future residential policy area. That's the applicants looking to turn it over to residential zoning. We made a request for further information, and the only outstanding piece of work at the moment for that is traffic, and council staff are getting their traffic report reviewed. So we're hoping to talk to the applicant about that in the next few days. I just see future-proof there. A significant piece of work from Future-Proof, the Hamilton to Tauranga corridor study. It's identified potential significant growth along this corridor, although there will be a focus. The bulk of the growth will be occurring at sort of either end Hamilton and Tauranga, but there is potential for growth in the towns along the corridor, Matamata, Tirau and Patauru. That work will obviously feed into the growth strategy work that we have to undertake, which is discussed below. Just wanted to draw your attention to a new item in this report, the efficiency and effectiveness report. Under section 35 of the Resource Management Act, Council has monitoring and reporting back obligations. These have been undertaken for some time. In 2020, however, we've just changed the format,
created a monitoring strategy that covered from 2020 to 2025, and the effectiveness and efficiency report is the outcome of the monitoring over that time. So that report's just been finalised. It will go to a council workshop in the near future, and we'll be able to report back to that at the next meeting. And we've got RMA reform. Sorry, I just yeah, hold on. Sorry about this. Can't get it to. So RMA reform, we are in that process at the moment. We are awaiting at the end of June the Select Committee report on the new Planning Act and the new Natural Environment Act. We haven't got any reason at the moment to think that they won't be that report won't be available at the end of June, and we're going to get a really good signal as to what the new 2 acts will be like. In the meantime, the government's been producing a lot of national direction, and a lot of that we made submissions to late, well, actually during the whole of last year. On Thursday last week, the government released the new National Environmental Standard for Kapapanga. So we just wanted to take you through that today and just give a flavour of what we're seeing in the document. So obviously introduced last week, these regulations come into force on the 2nd of July. And just a little bit about National Environmental Standards. As their name suggests, they're wanting to produce consistency nationally, usually introduced on a topic where there's been a lot of inconsistency, or so in the instance of Kapapanga, there were some plans that had no rules at all to provide for this type of housing. So this NES will make plans provide for that housing. So there can't be a rule in a district plan that is more restrictive than the NES, and as a result, council will have to update its district plan to reflect this new document. And just in summary, there's a more enabling approach in this document. So in terms of permitted activities, our existing plan, sort of what we provide for at the moment is 5 to 10 units on a site. So this is subject to a number of things, various land ownership requirements. Kapapanga housing is only available in the multi-purpose zones and the rural and rural residential zones. And there's various density requirements. They differ between the zones, and there's also standards and rules that apply. For the NES, however, sort of an automatic presumption of 10 units per site, again subject to land ownership requirements. Just important to highlight that in addition to the multi-purpose zones, they are also now provided for in all residential zones and all types of rural zones. So that's quite a big change there. We do have building coverage and various sort of rules and standards. In a lot of instances, this NES does defer to the district plan, but the NES has its own yard and setback requirements in both rural zones and residential zones. Restricted discretionary, this is where the NES is really different from our district plan. So in our district plan, at restricted discretionary activity status, there can only be applications in the Māori purpose zones, and that's only if you breach 1 or 2 of the standards, and there's nothing available as a restricted discretionary activity in the rural or rural residential zone. Whereas under the NES, like our plan, you do have to make an application if you breach some of the standards. However, we also have an additional 7 activity types that are providing for 11 to 30 units on the site. So that's a huge difference from what we have currently. Also important to identify that limited discretionary application can be publicly notified, but it is limited notification, and the NES specifies the parties that are to be limited notified if that's required.
As in your neighbours?
Neighbours and, for example, NZTA, if the site accesses onto a highway. Discretionary activities, again, this is where there's a big difference. You'll see the NES has stopped. There are no discretionary activities under the NES, whereas for our district plan, those larger sites or those larger number of Papakainga units would have been a discretionary application, and breaches of 3 or more standards. So that was really just to give a high level flavour of this document. I'm very happy to come back and take a workshop if there's interest in that, or provide further information on that document.
Is there an appetite to have a workshop? I know Ngāti Harbour's got a Papakainga going in at the moment, eh?
Yes.
Catherine Road?
Yes. There's at Pukimori then relocating, I think at least another house. We are still going through with our resource consent for Papakainga, or actually, no, sorry, I'll start again. We've got a project of our planet first, then we'll be moving, once we've sort of like get the resource consents out of the way, we will be working with our neighbours, our whānau, about setting up Papakainga there, but we haven't completed those conversations yet.
Okay. Is a workshop helpful for you now, or don't need? You guys are good.
Can I just ask, when you go for resource, when you're thinking about improving resource management, would the plans, sorry, for the growth, do you have to put in here, for instance, in Matamata we have had so many aged care facilities go in, however our doctors is exactly the same as it always was. Therefore, people that are there, actually some haven't been able to be seen by a doctor. Do you take into consideration schools, doctors, the town itself, parking? I know that I've come into town and thought, oh my gosh, it feels like Auckland, I can't even get a park. Do you take that into consideration as well?
Certainly parking, that can be an effect from development, so that would be part of a resource consent application. The new version of the RMA that's coming, you will have to take into account or look at integrated infrastructure, so education facilities will be part of that. Whether it extends to medical, actually, like right down to the level of the GP, are there enough GPs? I don't think that it does.
Well, I mean, going to the point of, instead of Matamata Medical Centre, for instance, why is there not I'm not saying Hamilton Hospital, but a bigger hospital that's also put within that because of how many extra people are coming into town and living.
Yes, it's certainly a good point, and I think that's where the benefit of having the forums like Future Proof and when we're starting our growth strategy, we'll be engaging with those key partners just to see what their plans are and see whether they are thinking about those types of things and making them aware of the level of growth that's happening and the demands for that. And also we have a more of an aging population too compared to other parts of the Waikato, so it's important that those considerations are taken about in terms of proximity and location for people to get to doctors and other appointments and things as well. So yes, it is something that we're mindful of, and it's about bringing those partners on a journey with you, I think, through looking at what's the growth process is. We can't obviously, we could encourage and advocate, but we can't require people to do different things. But it's just being able to share that picture, I think, of where the district is going and trying to encourage people to think about those things.
You can't fund. I'm just saying. I'm just looking at rates, more rate payers coming into the area. How is the council not providing for some of that infrastructure?
Well, I think
that's all I'm asking.
Yeah, I think we can help to advocate for that, but that's probably where our sort of functions and duties lie. Yeah.
And just to answer the question of do we want to have a workshop? For now, no, but I would love to get the information so that we can pass it on to our Papakanga developers, so that they are aware of the changes with the RMA and how it will affect a lot of our plans.
We could send the link out to the regulations in the website if you like, and the presentation that we've done today. It's actually quite hard to find it on the New Zealand legislation website, I found. So yeah, because it's kind of secondary legislation, not the top. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I've been down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I think the corridor about there's more people, so surely there's more money to do things.
Yes, sorry.
Doesn't look like that, does it? Yeah. It's a little bit of we're a little bit backwards. So in order to pay for the things we have, we need more people.
Well, just in terms of health services, for example, that's obviously one of the major drivers why the medical school's going in at Waikato University, and the goal there is to try and end up with an outcome where we have more GPs in our rural areas, in our towns. So that's one of the strategic moves of which this council issued its support to, but we don't influence the outcome, nor do we get funded.
The thing to keep an eye on is, as well as wastewater in the receiving environments, more population, more addition to the receiving environment, say. So to take into account, obviously stormwater is another one. So those will be well within your scope. I'd say to keep an eye on that infrastructure. Probably that's where your money will be going.
Yes.
Upgrading, like Pyro's got a big brand new waste plant, happening. They're going to be directing other towns, little places like Ngāti, are directing their wastewater to these big plants. They need to think about that, because as you come up to capacity, there's only one thing that pays for it in the end, is it's the receiving environment. So we've got to keep thinking about Te Taiawa, the environment and how it affects us all. We want all our mokos to swim in those rivers. We've seen it before. It's all our job to try and clean up the Waiho, being one of the most polluted rivers in New Zealand. I want my grandchildren to one day swim like up at White's Road. I don't know if it'll happen in our lifetime, but we all best to think about these things and keep that footprint, you know, make a better footprint while we're all here, eh? You know, for us all. Yeah. Sure.
I took for the quarter of but when you have looked at some of the larger entities that have failed in maintaining waste with large municipals, and it's happened over the years with pretty much every single one of them, in Hamilton, Wellington, Napier, and I do think that we really do need careful consideration on the many different ways that waste is treated. Napier, I nearly lost my mopo because of the problems that they have with waste getting into the drinking water, which really affected me personally. We need, I just think that the idea of having a lot of these processes centralized is not necessarily going to help if that great big huge central pot of waste is suddenly disrupted. You're then, you've got a tsunami then. Manawhenua.
If that's all we've got to say on that topic, I'll just move that report be received, eh? I'll move that. Can I take a second, Doug? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, we're running quite a bit behind schedule, so we're just going to move things along a little bit. Andrew and talk here to talk about the emergency management update. I'm happy for this report to be received unless anyone's got some other questions. The only thing I wanted to question was just how the marae, the Akiaki outcomes went.
We've got another one coming up as well.
Sorry to rush you along. That's all I want to know about. If anyone else got other things.
Okay, cool. So from the last Marae Akiaki, we had put together basically the baseline of the draft for Marae preparedness template based on the Tukuni Kokiri one thing that was created in 2017. From the workshop moving onwards, obviously we end up with weather events coming through and so after action reports, but the intention is to develop it further to actually include some scientific information as to weather projection stuff based on like its regional councils information, our information, and also information from the Marae people that are actually there. So we can say, insert the part of the plan, not only what's the vulnerability, susceptibility of an earthquake or for flood or anything of the sort, factory failure for those that nearby, Algas, Ixom, Evonik, so on and so forth. And then we can take it to the Marae and then have a discussion, and maybe the information that's provided from WRC or from our end is incorrect, or maybe it's an enlightening thing, and then we can start developing those plans further. So far, the only one that had pretty much completed it prior to the Marae Akiaki workshop was Raunaiti, but they had gone leaps and bounds and organised their own hazard risk mitigation workshop as well. We extended our intention to either facilitate or lead those discussions or just take part in it to help influence some stuff, and it will go towards the preparedness plans. But so far, it's just Raunaiti. The template is due to be ready by the end of this month. Want to be able to commit some time, but ideally it would end up looking like the emergency action plan that's on the wall. I've done a quick little printout, but obviously my skills aren't too good because it ends up a little bit shabby and the cut's a bit weird. But it'll be something that can just hang on the wall, where it's got information for civil defence, which will talk about what does it mean if there's a state of emergency declared if we activate. It'll have the welfare context as well, so it gives the people that are in the marae, whether they've opened the doors to support the wider community or whether people are just going there to seek shelter. It gives them information to contact us, and hopefully we'll have information about flooding, whether it falls up in the area, severe weather. So what does that mean if it's heavy wind coming up from the Kaimais or a fast storm or cyclone, earthquake information, but then we can expand on it and include information about utilities and outages. So PowerCo, not immediate contact, but just a notification of where you can go to check the power outages. And fire, volcanic ash, it's another hazards as well, volcanic ash, although there's nothing immediately in our district if something was to erupt, depending on the size of the plume and the strength of the wind and the direction it can come here. And then you can pretty much add any other stuff that will cater to an emergency action plan. It's something that's fit for purpose, will stay on the wall. It's not something that you have received and then put in the bottom of a drawer or something that you can't find. It's immediately accessible to be at the forefront of people's minds. But that's pretty much as far as we got. There's just the draft plans, and then I sort of need to do a little bit more mahi in terms of putting stuff together. But our intention is to again go out to Marae, meet up with people that either are involved or want to get involved. And we know that with the last Marae Ake workshop, not all Marae or iwi were represented there. So if there are those that missed out and want to get involved, we're happy to come to you guys. That's pretty much what we're doing. It's just we're eager to get involved, but we're not trying to go kicking down any doors. We want to be welcomed on as normal.
Can I just maybe suggest that a note goes up on Facebook? Just encouraging Marae to get in touch if they want to do their plan. That'd be helpful. We can always pass it on, but sometimes it's quicker if it goes that way.
It's something that also in the report is read as well as the communication lines are a bit of a mixed bag. We found through Saglabano, even with Tuatahi being in here as our Wairehi, with all the linkages that he has, it was quite inconsistent. Some only responded through Facebook groups, some only had phone contact, some only had email. And for me, I'd like to be involved as well, and it makes it more consistent. So if we do roll these out to every single Marae in our district, if the information there is accurate and we know, like if Tuatahi's away and the second string, third string person is away, the people on the ground have an assurance that they will be getting the right information to the right people to get the right support.
Great. Okay, I'll move that the support be received and that feedback
Just one question for me.
noted. Oh, sorry.
Has there been any discussion or appetite for plans moving forward for Marae in this area district to have a civil defence container based at the Marae? I'm aware in Hauraki there's a few, and I see really good value, especially with the big ones like Gabriel and stuff. They had in the container these things right down to baby clothes type of thing, all sitting there, all waiting for all. But has there been any discussion around discussing with Marae's about basing something?
I think so. It was definitely raised in the last Marae Ake workshop. And I think, again, it comes back to the whole funding thing, which is always a discussion. So the reason why you see quite a lot of them throughout Team Coromandel in particular, and as well as Hauraki, is that lots of it came from the recovery fund that they got from post-Cyclone Gabriel, which was $1 million to commit. And what was highlighted cheekily is that it's not until the weather event comes and we do get a bit of a thrashing that there is somehow a little bit of funding. But I think what's listed in the national area was, I think Minister Mark Mitchell has put X amount of funds together.
Yes, there has been a funding stream for specifically Marae Resilience that's ended at the moment, but there will be another one, and that ran into the millions, and some Marae did benefit. And from those containers, they're not cheap. $20,000-$30,000 depending on what you get. To give some context, TCDC employed a community engagement specialist, and she took a year to actually get that project up and running. So it was a massive bit of work. It was like 26 odd community response groups, all with different types of containers, which then the funding doesn't stop with the container. you then have to maintain it. The generators have to be started.
Yeah,
And so there's ongoing costs as well.
Right, I move that report we received and that feedback submitted. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, member update. Just try and keep it very brief. We're almost at 12 o'clock, aren't we? So, and we've still got the program, the work program and the workshop item to go through. So any burning updates from iwi? Oh. Right, okay, we've got Matariki coming up, so there'll be some Matariki events. I know Rangati's got a big one there. Actually, Narangi's got one up with 18.
We did, but we sort of fell off because of all these Tony's hit us.
Oh, yeah.
Sidetracked us.
Yeah, right.
Three little. Yeah.
Pardon?
In Ngāti Hau, very much the same.
Yes.
And by the time I got back to the marae, they just didn't have their head on, so we all played the connection. Hopefully nothing happened.
Okay, well, the Matariki fund was all allocated, so that money's being used. Ngāti Narangi's got something in Tumaturu, so good local events happening, which is great, and now hundreds of people will attend across those 3 events, which is exactly what we want that money to go towards. So that's great.
A couple of Ngāti Hoa people come towards me, I was talking towards you fellas in Ngāti Hoa. Yeah, so hopefully they're part of that funding.
Yeah. That's cool. Okay, I'll move that all those be received. Thank you. Work program.
We just need a second.
Oh, second, sorry. Work program, thank you, Sandra. Thank you.
Good, so just presenting this on Tuatahi's behalf. Really, it's just your work program that we schedule every year, and we've added in updates there where items have been brought forward or where they've needed to be moved out. So I'm happy to take any questions and I can get back to you via Tuatahi. Otherwise, it's just kind of your scheduled workshop. If there's anything specific you'd like us to bring back that you haven't already mentioned today, let us know.
Anything, anyone? I think we've set out. I've had a few guys over this. So. Right, that's cool. Thank you. Report we received. Yeah, I'll move that. If there's a second, please. Well, good. That's the end of the actual meetings. Do we kind of get a close this way? Right. So we're going to get to close off this part of the hui and we're going to go into a workshop. Right.